The darkest moment in life is rarely just about circumstances, it is about perception. It is the point where everything you once relied on begins to lose its meaning, where certainty dissolves into confusion, and where the path ahead disappears into shadow. In this space, it feels as though something is ending, something is breaking, something is being taken from you. But what if this darkness is not an ending at all, but a threshold? The transformation does not begin in comfort. It does not arise when everything is clear, stable, and predictable. Real change is born in disruption. It emerges when the structures that once defined you, your beliefs, your habits, your identity, can no longer hold. This is why the darkest moments feel so overwhelming. They are not just challenging your situation, they are challenging who you think you are. There is a silent process happening beneath the surface during these times. While everything appears to be falling apart, something deeper is rearranging itself. Old patterns are being questioned. Illusions are being stripped away. The version of you that was built for a different phase of life is slowly dissolving. This process is uncomfortable because it forces you to confront uncertainty without immediate answers. It asks you to stand still in the unknown without rushing to escape it. Most people misinterpret this phase. They see the darkness as failure, as a sign that they have taken the wrong path, or that they are not strong enough to continue. But the intensity of this moment is not evidence of defeat, it is evidence of depth. The deeper the transformation, the more profound the discomfort. Growth at this level is not about adding something new, it is about shedding what no longer serves you. In these moments, the mind often resists. It seeks familiarity, even if that familiarity is limiting or painful. It tries to pull you back toward what is known, what is safe, what is predictable. This resistance can feel like doubt, fear, or even exhaustion. It whispers that stopping would be easier, that retreating would bring relief. But this is the very point where transformation demands endurance. Darkness has a unique way of revealing truth. Without distractions, without external validation, you are left alone with yourself. This can be unsettling, but it is also clarifying. You begin to see what truly matters, what is authentic, and what has been an illusion. The noise fades, and in its place, something more honest begins to emerge. This stage is not about immediate clarity or quick solutions. It is about allowing the process to unfold without forcing it. It is about trusting that even when you cannot see the outcome, something meaningful is taking shape. The absence of light does not mean the absence of progress. Often, the most significant shifts happen in silence, in stillness, in moments that seem stagnant from the outside. Transformation requires a kind of surrender, not giving up, but letting go of the need to control every step. It asks you to move forward without guarantees, to continue even when motivation fades, to believe in a process that cannot yet be proven. This is where resilience is formed, not as an abstract idea, but as a lived experience. The darkest moment strips away everything superficial. It leaves you with the raw essence of who you are, and without distractions or disguises. And in that space, something powerful begins to take root. Not the person you were, shaped by expectations or past experiences, but the person you are becoming, shaped by awareness and choice. Pain is often misunderstood as something negative, something to avoid, something that signals that life has gone wrong. From an early age, the instinct is to escape discomfort as quickly as possible, to seek relief, to return to what feels safe, and familiar. But pain carries a different purpose beneath its surface, one that is rarely recognized in the moment that it is felt. It is not merely an interruption to your life, it is a force that reshapes it. When pain enters your life, it disrupts your sense of control. It forces you to confront situations, emotions, and truths that you might otherwise ignore. This disruption can feel unfair, even cruel, as if you are being singled out or tested beyond your limits. Yet pain does not arrive as punishment for who you are, it arrives as preparation for who you are capable of becoming. There is a refinement that takes place through struggle. Just as pressure transforms raw elements into something stronger and more valuable, emotional and psychological pain works in a similar way. It reveals your limits, then quietly pushes them outward. It shows you the areas where you are fragile, not to break you, but to strengthen what has not yet been developed. Without this process, growth would remain shallow, untested, and incomplete. Pain also has a way of stripping away illusions. It removes the comfort of denial and exposes what is real, relationships that are not genuine, goals that are not aligned with your true self, and beliefs that no longer serve you begin to surface under the weight of discomfort. This clarity can be unsettling because it requires you to face truths you may not be ready to accept. But within that clarity lies the opportunity to rebuild on a foundation that is honest and authentic. In moments of pain, the mind often searches for someone or something to blame. It tries to make sense of the discomfort by assigning it a negative meaning. This reaction is natural, but it can limit your understanding of what is truly happening. When pain is seen only as punishment, it creates resistance. You begin to fight against the experience instead of learning from it. But when you begin to see pain as preparation, your perspective shifts. The same experience that once felt like an obstacle becomes a source of insight. Preparation is rarely comfortable. It involves repetition, challenge, and moments of doubt. It requires patience when progress is not immediately visible. Pain operates in this same way. It stretches your emotional capacity, deepens your awareness, and builds resilience over time. These are not qualities that develop in ease, they are forged through difficulty. There is also a quiet strength that emerges from enduring pain. It is not loud or obvious, but it is steady and reliable. It is the ability to remain present even when circumstances are difficult, to continue moving forward even when motivation fades, and to hold on to a sense of purpose even when the outcome is uncertain. This strength becomes a part of you, shaping how you respond to future challenges. Pain teaches in ways that comfort cannot. It demands your attention and invites reflection. It asks you to look inward, to question, to adapt, and to grow. While it may not feel meaningful in the moment, it carries lessons that reveal themselves over time. These lessons are not always easy, but they are necessary for transformation that goes beyond surface level change. The idea that pain is preparation does not remove its intensity or make it easier to endure. What it does is give it direction. It allows you to see that there is a purpose unfolding, even if it is not immediately clear. Instead of being something that happens to you, pain becomes something that works within you, shaping your perspective, your strength, and your capacity to evolve. The mind is designed for survival, not transformation. Its primary role is to protect you from discomfort, uncertainty, and risk. It constantly scans for threats, looking for anything that might disturb your sense of safety. When things become difficult, When the path ahead is unclear, or when the pressure intensifies, the mind reacts quickly. It urges you to stop, to retreat, to return to what feels familiar. This is not because you are weak, but because your mind is doing exactly what it was built to do. But there is another force within you that operates differently. It is quieter, less reactive, and not driven by fear. It does not seek comfort in the same way the mind does. Instead, it is drawn toward growth, meaning, and fulfillment. This deeper part of you does not measure life by how easy it feels, but by how aligned it is with your true nature. While the mind focuses on immediate relief, this inner force is focused on long-term becoming. When you are on the edge of something significant, something that requires you to grow beyond your current limits, the conflict between these two forces becomes more intense. The mind begins to amplify doubt. It replays past failures, highlights worst case scenarios, and questions your ability to succeed. It tells you that the effort is not worth it, that the risk is too high, that quitting would be the smarter choice. These thoughts can feel convincing because they are rooted in a desire to keep you safe. At the same time, there is a subtle pull in the opposite direction. It is not loud or forceful, but it is persistent. It reminds you of why you started. It holds onto the vision you have for yourself, even when that vision feels distant. It does not promise ease, but it offers something deeper, a sense of purpose that cannot be easily dismissed. This is the part of you that knows there is more to your life than comfort and avoidance. The struggle between the mind and this deeper force often reaches its peak just before a breakthrough. As you get closer to change, the mind senses the unknown ahead and increases its resistance. It becomes more persuasive, more urgent, more convincing. This is why the desire to quit can feel strongest right before something shifts. It is not a sign that you are failing. It is a sign that you are approaching a threshold. Many people misinterpret this moment. They assume that the intensity of their doubt means they are on the wrong path. They listen to the voice that tells them to stop, believing it is guiding them in the right direction. But in doing so, they step away just before they would have discovered what they were capable of. They allow the mind's need for safety to override the deeper call for growth. Learning to recognize this pattern changes everything. It allows you to see that the urge to quit is not always a reliable signal. It is often a reflection of fear, not truth. By observing it rather than immediately acting on it, you create space to choose differently. You begin to understand that discomfort is not necessarily danger, and that uncertainty is not necessarily a reason to turn back. Endurance in these moments is not about forcing yourself forward blindly. It is about staying present with the tension, acknowledging the fear without letting it dictate your actions. It is about trusting that there is something within you that sees beyond the immediate struggle. This trust is not built overnight. It develops through experience, through moments where you continue despite doubt, and later realize that doing so led to growth. Over time, the relationship between the mind and this deeper force begins to shift. The mind does not disappear, but it becomes less dominant. It still raises concerns, still seeks comfort, but it no longer controls every decision. The quieter voice gains strength not by becoming louder, but by becoming more familiar. You learn to recognize it, to listen to it, and to follow it even when the path is uncertain. This dynamic reveals something important about the nature of progress. The point where you feel like quitting is not the end of the journey. It is often the doorway to the next level. It is where old limits are tested and new possibilities begin to take shape. The mind may try to pull you back at this point, but the deeper part of you continues to move forward, steady and unwavering, guiding you toward a version of yourself that has not yet fully emerged. Progress rarely feels the way people expect it to. There is a common belief that moving closer to a goal should feel clear, motivating, and full of visible signs that things are working. In reality, the final stages of growth often feel the most uncertain. The distance between where you are and where you want to be seems just as wide as when you first started, even though you have already traveled further than you realize. This is because progress is not always linear or visible. Much of what changes within you happens beneath the surface, beyond immediate recognition. Your mindset shifts, your resilience deepens, your awareness expands, but these internal developments do not always produce instant external results. Because of this, it is easy to assume that nothing is happening, that your efforts are not leading anywhere, or that you are still far from your destination. The mind tends to measure progress based on what it can see and quantify. It looks for clear evidence, for milestones that confirm movement. When those signs are not obvious, doubt begins to grow. It questions whether the time and energy you have invested are worth it. It compares your journey to others, amplifying the feeling that you are behind or not doing enough. This perception creates a sense of distance that may not actually exist. In reality, there is often a point in any meaningful pursuit where the majority of the work has already been done, but the results have not yet fully appeared. This is the stage where many people give up, not because they are incapable, but because they cannot see how close they are. They interpret the lack of visible progress as failure, when it is often a sign that something is about to shift. Growth tends to compound quietly. Small efforts, repeated over time, build upon each other in ways that are not immediately noticeable. Each step may feel insignificant on its own, but together they create momentum. This momentum does not always reveal itself. Gradually, sometimes it reaches a threshold and then becomes visible all at once. What once felt like stagnation suddenly turns into movement. There is also a psychological aspect to feeling far away from your goal. The closer you get, the more your standards evolve. What once seemed like a distant dream becomes your new baseline, and you begin to focus on what is still missing rather than what has already been achieved. This shift in perspective can create the illusion that you have not made as much progress as you actually have. At the same time, nearing a breakthrough often brings increased resistance. Doubt, fear, and fatigue can intensify as you approach something significant. This can make it feel as though you are moving in the wrong direction, when in fact you are encountering the final layers of challenge before change occurs. The discomfort you feel is not necessarily a sign to stop. It can be an indication that you are pushing beyond previous limits. Trusting that you are closer than you think requires a different way of seeing your journey. It means valuing the unseen progress as much as the visible results. It means recognizing that effort is not wasted simply because the outcome has not yet appeared. It means understanding that growth is not always immediate, but it is always cumulative. There is a quiet persistence required in this stage. It is not driven by constant motivation or excitement. but by a steady commitment to continue. Even when the path feels unclear, even when the results are not obvious, there is something within you that keeps moving forward. This movement, however small it may seem, is what carries you closer with each step, narrowing the gap in ways that are not always immediately apparent. Identity is often thought of as something fixed, a set of traits, labels, or roles that define who a person is. But in reality, identity is not something you simply have. It is something that is continuously shaped through experience. It is formed not in moments of ease, but in moments of pressure, uncertainty, and challenge. The way you respond when things are difficult has a far greater impact on who you become than the way you act when everything is going smoothly. Endurance plays a central role in this process. It is not just about lasting through hardship, it is about how you carry yourself within it. When you choose to continue despite discomfort, when you remain present despite doubt, when you hold on to your direction despite obstacles, you are reinforcing a version of yourself that is resilient and grounded. These repeated choices begin to define you, not as a temporary state, but as a consistent pattern of being. Every challenge presents a moment of decision. You can withdraw, avoid, or give in to the pressure, or you can stay, adapt, and move forward. These decisions may seem small in isolation, but over time they accumulate. They create a narrative about who you are, one that is not based on what you say about yourself, but on what you consistently do. Endurance turns intention into evidence. It transforms abstract qualities like strength, discipline, and perseverance into lived reality. There is a difference between wanting to be strong and becoming strong. The desire alone does not shape identity. It is the action taken in difficult moments that does. Endurance requires you to act in alignment with who you aim to be, even when it would be easier not to. It asks you to remain committed when motivation fades, to continue when progress feels slow, and to hold steady when uncertainty rises. In doing so, it builds a sense of self that is not dependent on external conditions. This process is not always visible from the outside. Endurance often happens quietly, without recognition or immediate reward. It takes place in moments where no one is watching, where the outcome is uncertain, and where the only thing guiding you is your own decision to keep going. These are the moments that carry the most weight in shaping identity, because they are driven by internal commitment rather than external validation. As endurance becomes a habit, it begins to influence how you see yourself. You no longer identify as someone who avoids difficulty, but as someone who can face it. This shift in self-perception changes the way you approach future challenges. Instead of questioning whether you are capable, you begin to trust in your ability to handle what comes your way. This trust is not based on assumption, it is built on repeated experience. Endurance also refines your values. It forces you to confront what truly matters to you, because continuing through difficulty requires a reason. When you choose to persist, you are affirming that what you are working toward is meaningful enough to justify the effort. This alignment between your actions and your values strengthens your sense of identity, making it more coherent and stable. There is a quiet transformation that occurs when endurance becomes part of who you are. You become less reactive to immediate discomfort and more focused on long-term direction. You develop the ability to stay grounded in situations that once would have unsettled you. You begin to move with a sense of steadiness that comes from knowing you can rely on yourself. Identity, in this sense, is not something you declare, it is something you demonstrate. It is revealed through patterns of behavior over time, especially in moments where giving up would be easier. Endurance shapes these patterns, turning repeated effort into a defining characteristic. Through this process, who you are becomes less about circumstance and more about the way you choose to respond to it.